Trapped somewhere in the 1990s, but learning to drive? Well, you need to contact Matty, the Metro School of Motoring. He's got just the thing for you. Welcome to Lot 76 Cars. My name's Simon and today I'm at the Best of British event at Brooklands and we've got some real treats on show here today. So without further ado, let me take you around the show. So Hillman started out as a bicycle company originally, but by 1950s, I think this was maybe pre-Roots days, they were churning out the Hillman Minx, and this is a beauty, owned by the owner's father. Originally it's a Minx, but it's also got, oh, it's a lovely picnic set in the back, some great period brochures on the seat there as well. We've got a little old bicycle there, but more importantly at the back we've got a caravan. Doesn't that look an absolute treat? Now this is really a beauty. Now this is the Audax, so named Audax Minx series. This is a 3A. Audax, I think something to do with the Latin for audacious. These were very stylish cars. Two-tone paint was an option. This being a 3A car, it's got the so-called wrap over rear wings like this. You'll probably see better. So the car evolved quite a lot through the period, badged as Hillman, badged as Singer. Absolutely lovely, isn't it? Somebody's done a huge amount of work to get that car looking like that, I guess. So we've got a 1955 Ford Consul convertible. I don't think these were Crayford produced. I could be corrected. Stick it in the comments if you know. That looks great with its period white wool tyres in. Lovely semi-bench seat, or it is a bench seat. It's got a column gear change you do expect from cars of this period. Lots of exposed metal on the inside. We'd yet to really use plastics, probably Bakelite, so-called Bakelite steering wheel. That looks very elegant, isn't it, how it cuts away. So quite appropriately under the Safety Fast motto is this MG Metro from what, 1989. The MG Metro had the A+ engine in. Basically, I think the development of the A series engine was far cheaper to develop into the A+ than it was to build a completely new engine. 89 brake horsepower. Doesn't sound like a huge deal these days, but it's probably enough with the weight that the car's carrying. Absolutely in lovely, lovely order that. There's a lot going for Metros, and it says now we're going Metro in even. So a shout out to Paul Giard, another YouTuber. Check out his channel, got some great videos on there. And this is MG TF. Now the TF was the development of the MGF, but dropped the hydrogas suspension in favour of coil springs. This one's in great order, quite a late car, 55. Yeah, getting pretty late. In lovely order. Got the crash helmet ready to go if needed. I guess Paul, a moment's notice, you're ready to go on track. Fabulous. So some of you will remember the Ginetta video I did last year. Well, here's one of the cars we didn't actually see. It's a Ginetta G16. This is a continuation of a 1968 original build car for race series. And doesn't it look a treat? It's quite cozy in there. Looks like those roof panels might lift out. Potentially, yeah, that's going to be quite a warm place on today. I can't imagine the aircon's working too well. That's lovely. Got a bit of a hint of Dino about it, hasn't it? Well, from some angles anyway. So from one extreme to the other with the totally outrageous TVR cigar. It's built in the Peter Wheeler days, who ran TVR for maybe 15 or 16 years. It's incredible, isn't it? Just try and pick out some of the details for you. Just the front spoiler, but also look at those gills. Is that what you call them? In the front wings? Are they for aerodynamic purposes or just because they look mean? Just about get a peek in. You can see maybe the engine there. It's got things like underneath the mirrors, you see the little button there, basically that opens the doors. Lots of milled aluminium switchgear in there. They didn't use switchgear from other manufacturers in this period anyway. Doesn't that look mint? Look at the exhaust. It's absolutely huge, isn't it? What a car. So this is from TVR's so-called wedge period, and it's the TVR, it's the SEAC. Now, if I get that right, that's Special Equipment Aramid Composite, which is to do with the body construction, which was much lighter, and actually meant these cars could be used or homologated for racing. I believe even at one stage they probably even got banned after a season. They were taking all of the silverware home. Doesn't that rear spoiler look absolutely immense? What an incredible looking car those TVRs are. It really looks like it means business, doesn't it? So sitting very high up the Roots range is this Humber Imperial. Now the Imperials were taken off the line and finished by a coach building company that was also owned by Roots. It's got a 6-cylinder 130 horsepower engine. Absolutely beautiful condition. I did sit in this very car maybe a couple of years ago, and it's stunning inside. Now things like the factory vinyl roof, remember when they were in vogue, they were applied at the coach building company. It is a very elegant car. The first owner was apparently, it says on the car, a millionaire businessman. Now for those of you not seen the channel before, where do you think the fuel filler cap is? Can you see it anywhere? Well, in actual fact, I'll give you a clue. The fuel filler cap is behind that rear reflector. Now, I didn't know that until somebody told me, so there you go. It's a bit of trivia. Beautiful, isn't it? So a guy called Fergus Pollock, who also designed the Espace, I believe, the Mark 1 Espace, working under Jeff Lawson, produced this effectively very radical reskin of the XJS. So it uses predominantly underneath, it looks like an XJS, but it's an XK8. It's an early car, make it a 96. The very earliest cars I've ever seen would be the end-plated ones. I've seen maybe one or two end-plated ones. It's got the early wheels on, and to be honest with you, I like those early wheels. I think those early wheels do an awful lot for the style. Yes, they're smaller, but on the 17-inch rims, I'm sure the ride quality is pretty good. These, not in this condition, but generally these cars are relatively cheap to buy now, and isn't it absolutely elegant? That's beautiful, isn't it? So with a 16-valve engine, one of the first really in a production car, fettled by Coventry Climax, is this Triumph Dolomite Sprint. Really strong in touring cars. They did very, very well. The Sprint has got differences. You can see it's got the wheels, although they were fitted to others. This pageant blue example, it's got the full vinyl roof, which Sprints had, rather than just the C-pillar, which some of the other ones had. Isn't it lovely? And quick. Who wouldn't want a Dolly Sprint? So those stripes on the front denote that it's an RS 1600i. So based on the XR3i, but there were differences. I think only about another 10 brake horsepower or something like that. I believe it was built maybe for homologation purposes. This particular one's for sale. It's one of 219 Caspian Blue apparently, and there's 30 left. Well, it's helpful to know that. That looks great, doesn't it? So good advice for automotive engineers from Colin Chapman. Adding power makes you faster on the straights, subtracting weight makes you faster everywhere. Well, there's certainly been quite a bit of weight subtracted with this original Lotus 7. So before the rights were sold to Caterham, obviously Lotus produced this car themselves, and doesn't it look absolutely lovely? Not a huge amount of space in there, but then again, what do you expect? But I bet it looks a treat, but I bet it actually goes really, really well, even on those skinny tyres. So this colour is affectionately known as green sand and adorns this Series 2 XJ. Series 2 cars had the higher bumper to cope with US crash regulations. This one's a beautiful V12 from 1974. We won't ask about the fuel consumption. Obviously it's got twin tanks, as you would expect. You're probably going to go through those quite quickly. I think you do have to manually switch the tanks over as well. Put that in the comments if you know different. Still got the Kennings dealer plate in the back. Kennings were quite a big motor group back in the 60s, 70s and maybe into the 80s. That's lovely, isn't it? So this is a Lotus Europa Series 2. Apparently this was one of the first cars to be sold without the purchase tax that affected vehicles and caused them to be sold in part kit form, designed by the same guy who designed the Black & Decker Workmate. Yes, really. Difficult to believe that. This is what, packing about just over 100 horsepower, but obviously light as you like, strict two-seater, and doesn't it look a treat in that two-tone silver with blue over the top. So back in the day, an extra £337 apparently would buy you a Mini Sprint. So what's the difference? Well, the roof's been chopped. I don't know if you can pick up on the fact that the roof is considerably lower than a normal Mini. It's also been de-seamed, so all those external seams that you would see on the Mini at the front there, although the roof seam is still there, and the back seam are gone, and doesn't it look much cleaner for it as well? Now, they also had some engine mods as well. I think fewer than 100 or something, like 100, 150 were ever built. But yeah, it was easy to walk past one and not realise the significance. And probably from this angle, you can now pick out the fact that roof line is lower and it's got a more sort of coupe stance. It looks a treat. I like that one. So launched in 1996 to a rave reception is the Mark I Lotus Elise. It gets the name from it's the name of the granddaughter of Romano Artioli, who owned Lotus and Bugatti at the time. To me, the shape is the iconic one. I'm not so keen on the later ones that came. All extruded aluminium, absolutely lightweight, that stack instrument display. Really basic inside, but a real driver's machine. No power steering, doesn't need it, it's so light. What an absolute treat. So Donald Healey showed his sports car concept, or his new sports car concept, in the late 50s, 58, 59 at Earl's Court. Donald Stokes of BMC was very impressed by it and offered to build it, and therefore the car uses the front scuttle panel and the partial floor pan of an Austin Atlantic, although you'd never know it. This is a later Series 2 car, but doesn't it look a treat? An Austin Healey 3000 Mark II. Looks absolutely beautiful in that sort of kingfisher blue. Maybe not kingfisher blue, but it looks absolutely gorgeous, doesn't it? Really pops the colour. So it's a British car day. So what's this doing here? Well, it's an Escort, and these were built at Halewood in Liverpool, which is a factory now owned by Jaguar Land Rover, but these built Escorts back in the day. This is the Cabriolet. I suspect the Cabriolet was in truth engineered by Carman or somebody like that, so probably maybe not built or assembled finally in that factory. This particular one's for sale. Got quite a lot of space in them, actually, as you would expect, being derived from a hatch. It's a lovely leather trim. It's a manual car. Got that later dash in there, as you can see. Good to see that here today, isn't it? So what have we got here? A Triumph 2000 from 1968. These were quite a good handling car back in the day. Oh, I love those side indicators, side repeaters. That's interesting on the B post, isn't it? In PI form, they had the petrol injection. Some were carburetted. They didn't persevere with petrol injection. Had a lot of issues with it. But these, you can see, informs the future design language. Look at the back and also what we saw the front of the car. Very reminiscent of Triumphs of the period. And Triumphs had a great reputation. Hence, that's why Standard chose to use the name and drop the Standard name. So this beauty is an Alvis. So Alvis were produced into the 60s until they were taken over by BMC, British Motor Corporation. Then car production stopped. It continued as, I think, a military equipment company, and then essentially production restarted in 2012, produced in very limited numbers. You can effectively get a modern day version of one of these, and wouldn't it be nice? Look at that beautiful, beautiful walnut dashboard, that period radio, Motorola radio in there. Plenty of room for four for Grand Touring. Even a decent sized boot on it. Actually, it's almost sounding quite practical, isn't it? What a lovely looking car that one is, isn't it? Well, this is a rare treat. It's a Reliant Fox. So Reliant built mainly three-wheelers, but they built quite a few four-wheelers as well. There's a few here today, and this one is the Fox, built in a van form, or in this form as a pickup. Well, it's even got a pop-up sunroof in there. Well, this one's seen a bit of action, but there's one thing, I guess, from a body perspective, you haven't got to contend with rust with all that glass fibre kicking about, have you? What a treat that is. So the TR range originally started with the TR2, built mainly for the burgeoning American market, and then was quickly developed into the TR3. So this TR3, you can denote the difference because the grille there is not recessed. There's a grille right at the front, so that mouth is closed up. Absolutely lovely looking cars, aren't they? The doors drop away here. You've still got door handles that are actually on the inside of the doors rather than on the outside. It's a left-hand drive one, may well have been a US car possibly, but absolute treat to see that, isn't it? What a beauty. So this is a TR4A, the A denoting the model development and the addition of independent rear suspension, designed mainly by Michelotti. Now next to it we've got something which is a TR250. Now the 250 is a car that was built mainly for the American market, I understand, and had carburetors instead of the standard fuel injection that I think the UK got, and it does look beautiful with that white hood over the blue body, doesn't it? Those wire wheels, I bet those take a bit of cleaning. Lovely. So German company Karmann, I think at Osnabrück, were given the job of developing the Triumph TR5 into the TR6, and this is what they did. So you can see as the immediate differences, I know that's a TR4 next to it, but you can see the similarities in the windscreen, but you can also see the changes at the front, and at the back it's got the sort of that cut off Karmann rear. We'll try and compare both if I can actually squeeze myself. So that's the back of the TR6 there, very cut off and sharp styling features. Although this is a TR4, the TR5 wasn't that much dissimilar, and that's the styling at the back of those two together. So Roots were the masters of badge engineering, weren't they? And they developed the Imp to the Singer, in this case a Singer Chamois, and this is a Mark II. It promised luxury. Let's have a look. It says how to afford a luxury car at home. Full-size family motoring, body and engine compartment, sound insulating for quietness, economy, safety, estate car versatility. Well, I'm buying into that one. Where do I sign? And only £581 and 11 pence, apparently. Absolutely lovely, isn't it? So produced up in the north by Lee Noble, a noted designer who also designed the Ultima. If you know that is this, I think it's the M12, I might be corrected on that one. So these were much more than any sort of kit car. These in actual fact were a fully built up vehicle. They used some parts bin special. You recognise the lights are from a Mondeo saloon of the period. The engine I believe is a Ford engine, the 2.5 litre V6, but nonetheless a very accomplished sports car, apparently really rated by the press at the time. So this is a great example of an early P6 Rover from 1964 and a bleed plater. Now 1964 was the first time the Car of the Year contest was won, and the Rover picked up the very first Car of the Year trophy. Got some unique innovative features in terms of safety, quite a safe car for its time. All the panels actually bolt on. Now next to it we've got a later car. You can start and spot the differences, can't you? This is a 3500. It uses the small block Buick V8 engine, which became synonymous with Rover. It's got the C-pillars. Obviously I've got that vinyl on them. Beautiful place to be. This one's an automatic, not so many manuals. The manuals were the 3500S's. You don't see too many of those, but when we look at them side by side from the front, you can really highlight the differences between those two, aren't they? Still that iconic shape. So the Phoenix 4 had a few interesting ideas, let's put it that way, and one of them was to stick a Mustang 260 brake horsepower Mustang engine in a Rover 75 and re-engineer it from front wheel drive to rear wheel drive. Yes, apparently. Now most of these cars are known as the MG ZT260s, but the engine did go into a softer looking, more contemporary Rover 75 derivative. You've got the big Audi-esque type grille at the front on that one, which gives that one away. It's a later car, so it's got the facelift lamps. I don't think quite as pretty as the original one, But yeah, it's still a 75, and it's a 75 that really goes with a bang, I guess. So Ian, tell us about this Rover 100 School of Motoring car. I think there's an interesting story behind it, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So I got it last year. It had 22,000 miles on the clock for a 29-year-old car.
Wow.
I started to turn to shows, and basically every second person that asked me about it said they learned to drive in it.
Right.
So I thought, well, lean into it. So I turned it into a little bit of a fake learner car.
So we shouldn't call you and try and book a lesson.
No, well, you can do. I might not be able to stop you from it doesn't have the dual controls.
Okay.
But I've done about 7,000 miles in the last year in it, so I'm using it as a daily.
Wow.
And yeah, so people just smile when they see the learner car.
Well, it must be a late one. End plate.
It's
must be towards the end of.
It's 95, yeah. So it's actually the first year of the Rover 100 production.
Okay. Excellent.
When they rebadged it to the Rover 100 rather than the Rover Metro.
Right.
They spend a little bit of money on it. It's got a Peugeot gearbox in it.
So it actually drives quite well then.
Yeah,
day to day.
yeah. It's got five-speed gearbox. The brakes are pretty good. It's got the GTA alloys on it. I've also got 3-door interior, handy for letting people in the rear through the front doors if you want to be
okay.
Dukes of Hazzard style.
Interesting. I'll bear that in mind. Oh well, thanks for telling us about it.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
So, designed by renowned design company Ogle and then manufactured by Scimitar initially as a sort of 2-door notch body. This is the later Scimitar GT. It's the SE6 car. It's got the Ford SX 3-litre SX engine in there. Looks very nice in this period brown with a very sandy coloured vinyl roof. Practical as a hatchback. You can see why a lot of people like them, can't you? What's not to like? So this Rover 100 Ascot SE hides a bit of a secret. It's one of 3, yes. Well, why? Because it's got a 1.5 litre PSA diesel. It's a diesel Rover 100. So not many were built. Apparently the owner said it's a little bit noisy, but it's very good on fuel. And as I say, one of 3. That's incredible, isn't it? What a beautiful condition it is. The owner, apparently all the owner's done is virtually wash it and drive it. Amazing. So apart from the colour, there is another reason to look at this Rover 3500. It's an S. Now that means that it's a manual. It's got the lower cross member and it's got unusually a manual gearbox. So it's got a fair bit of poke with that small block V8 Buick engine. There you see the manual gearbox. S, not as many S's around. Beautiful sort of velour-like ribbed interior. Some of them had the wheel on the boot, but not this particular car. But it's an absolutely immense colour, isn't it? Doesn't it look great? In avocado, I think it's called. So the Jensen Healey came through the relationship that Donald Healey had. He was chairman of Jensen Motors, keen to diversify due to the fuel crisis. The Interceptor was tanking in terms of sales. Who wouldn't want a 7-litre in a fuel crisis? The Jensen Healey used engines developed on a Vauxhall block, but engines actually supplied by Lotus. So an interesting parts bin web for this particular car. Didn't sell in absolutely huge numbers, and quite a standout in a sea of MGBs and other cars of the period. The Jensen Healey really stands out, doesn't it? 6.75 litres and 400 brake horsepower is not a bad pedigree, is it? And this is one of the run-out Bentley Turbo RT models, 250 produced, apparently just 70 odd remain. It is a beautiful order, very well appointed as you would expect. As these cars get into older life, they don't always receive the same level of care as they do when they're new, but this one looks like it has, and it looks absolutely immense, doesn't it? Beautiful. So this is a Bond Equip, and it was built by Bond up in Preston, and it uses a Triumph Herald chassis with obviously a separate chassis on the Triumph Herald, so it does enable the panels to be bolted on over the top and a separate body to be put on, in this case glass fibre. Now Reliant actually bought Bond, and I think they had designs to access the Triumph dealer network, which is the relationship that Bond had with Triumph, but unfortunately it didn't work out. And I think the only car that continued from Bond was the Bond Bug, which was the orange one, which may well have been in production at that stage. So yes, a relatively rare car, uses the 2-litre so-called Vitesse engine. We'll have a quick look inside whilst we're here, because you don't often see these. It is a 4-seater. Interesting amount of space inside that one. I guess Triumph aficionados would recognise some of that switchgear probably from Triumph of the period. And quite an attractive coupe-like design, far more modern than I guess the Herald that it was actually based on, isn't it? Interesting to see that one here today. So this is a Jensen 541, remarkable for a few things. It uses a 4-litre Austin engine. It's got Perspex rear side windows, which apparently are then new material developed towards the back end of World War II. It's got that very interesting grille, which is open from the inside of the car. So depending whether you want to cool or heat the engine up, you can actually open and close it from inside the car. A remarkable looking car, and to be honest with you, I think one of the prettiest cars of its period. So this Viva HB was rescued by its current owner, its second owner, when he was putting in heating system to a house, and the lady opposite had a problem with her heating system and asked if he was interested in old cars. Now she couldn't drive anymore, and she offered him this, and he must have snapped her hand off, because it's an absolute beauty. 43,000 miles from new, and doesn't it look an absolute treat of its period? Got the auxiliary gauges there, got that strip speedo, a very thin rimmed steering wheel, typical of the period, and again many of them met the end in the scrapyard, but thankfully this one didn't. Well, codenamed Mosquito and designed by Sigonis, what can it be? Well, it can only be a Morris Minor, can't it? And depending what flavour you want, we've got the convertible version, the very useful convertible version here. That is in fantastic condition. Look at the amount of room in there. It looks incredible, doesn't it, really? How thin the seats are as well. And if you didn't want that one, you wanted something, you know, maybe a bit more practical for when the rain comes, and it will, then we've got the 2-door version there. What's a 66, and the other one looks like an early one. I can't tell with the plate on that one. Lovely. So running from 1971 just to 1975, I think 230 or so cars were produced. There were aspirations to produce many more. Yes, it's the Droop Snoot, so-called Droop Snoot Forenza, named I think Forenza by the Italian pronounced of Florence or something like that. 2.3 litre engine using parts from Bill Blyderstein, a very renowned Vauxhall tuner, pumping out, I think in this form, something like 130 horsepower. Well, we can have a closer look because there's one next to it, another one with the engine open here. With the bonnet open rather than, hopefully not the engines open, but there you go in all its glory. So Woolsey and Riley offered more upmarket versions of BMC products in the BMC range, and in this instance they did a bit more than just badge engineering. This is the Woolsey Hornet. There was the Riley Elf as well, clearly mini base, but a different grille at the front. Bonnet looks different, and more importantly, it's actually got a fairly usable boot. Now to me, these look very desirable little cars, don't they? All the best features of a Mini, but in actual fact you've got one with a decent sized boot, which was always the Achilles heel. Not sure about the styling, because clearly it's still Mini base. That's absolutely clear from the rear C-pillar, isn't it? Great to see it though. We have a very late Series 4 Spitfire. I'm not sure what that green colour's called. This must be getting towards the back end of life. It would be a 1978, looking at the registration on that one. S-plate UK reg. Single filler in the centre of the back. That sort of Michelotti type styling at the back still, I guess. It had a long production life, didn't it? So this is lovely, isn't it? It's a steel grey, apparently, MG Magnet ZA from 1956, the 1500 engine. Got some lovely features on this car. I think also designed by Gerald Palmer, who designed a number of cars of the period. I do like that handle at the bottom of the grille. I don't know if that was standard. If you know, then please tell me. Some of the features on the side, you'll notice where the handles are incorporated into the window line here at the bottom. The owner has invited me to have a look inside, so I'm just opening random cars here. And this was a feature the Riley Pathfinder had. Inside, you've got a gear change on the floor, not a column gear change. Beautiful dashboard. and it just smells like a lovely old car inside. Lots and lots of glass areas you can see probably, and a decent amount of space in it. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? What a lovely old car. The MGA represented a massive change in style and direction for MG. If you can imagine the MGTF midget which this replaced looked completely from a different age. So this arrived in the mid 50s, maybe 55, and continued to the early 60s. Most of the, I don't know, 100,000 so cars were exported to the US. This is looks like, well, certainly looks like a UK car. Lovely place inside there. This one is really stunning condition. I know I say that a lot, but honestly, this one, the paintwork is really looks incredible, doesn't it? I hope the camera picks that one up. Lovely to see that here. So one guy that did have a crack at redesigning the Mini and the Mini Clubman was a guy called Roy Haynes, who left Ford and came to work for BL, and he put this front end on the Clubman. Now this is a relatively early Clubman, what, 72, 73, that beautiful purple colour. I had a Mini in the same colour. I can't for the life of me remember what it is. I'll stick it on screen in the edit if I do remember at some stage. It's the pre-De Novo tyres. So later cars had the innovative run flat tyres called De Novo that had capsules that would break and fill the tyre with some goo and stop it going completely flat. This one's an early car by the look of it, and doesn't it look absolutely lovely? Now this yellow beauty is a Bristol, and I can't remember for the life of me, the split screen, I can't remember for the life of me the model, so I'll have to stick it on screen in the edit. Apologies for that. But Bristol turned their hand from aircraft manufacture at the end of World War II, and they went into producing cars, initially based on proprietary BMW designs. I think they had the BMW rights, or certainly the plans for the BMW 2-litre engine. This has got the 2-litre engine. I'm not sure if this is an original colour. Seems pretty bright for a car back in the 50s, but till late 40s, early 50s. But it's an immense looking colour, isn't it? In the run-up to the relaunch of the MG brand with the MGF, Rover Group decided they would use a heritage shell, and they would put in the small block Buick. Yeah, they still had that, and they would sell or develop this MG RV8, which was mainly sold in the Japanese market. It had a lot of things like air conditioning. This one's in absolutely lovely condition, as many of them are. I think something like 85% of them went abroad for export, which is absolutely incredible ratio. Many of the cars now found themselves back in the UK where they were made. Now this is a 1949 MGTC, apparently bought by the owner in a box of bits back in 1975. He's managed to resurrect it, and it's a prize-winning car. Look at the rosette on there. Looks incredible. To be honest with you, relatively old-fashioned design for the late, for the late 40s. And what a fabulous-looking car. Let's have a look inside, shall we? The door handles on the inside, by the look of it. Not a huge amount of room in there. Definitely a strict two-seater, maybe one and a bit even. Beautiful car. Very thin wire wheels. Looks incredible, doesn't it? So this is an Arrow series, or Soco's Arrow series based car by the Roots Group. It replaces the Audax series, sold as under a number of brands. This one is branded Singer, and this apparently was built to a specification by a former or a Roots engineer. And it's got things like twin Strombo carburetors with a 1700cc engine, but this exact specification apparently never actually went into production. So you can see here, sorry it's getting a bit crowded here, apologies. That's lovely, isn't it? Now, designed by Carrozzeria Touring, with early cars built by Vignali before production transferred in-house to West Bromwich, is of course a Jensen Interceptor. It's a G, what they make it a 68, 69. This one is absolutely beautiful colour, stunning colour, isn't it? That sort of minty green metallic looks incredible. Now, it was only really the oil crisis that killed these cars off. I think 7-litre engines probably didn't help. single digit fuel consumption, and but quite a few survive. Got that incredible glass area at the back, which is unique to them. Unmistakably Jensen Interceptor, isn't it? Now we must be quite right at the back end of Reliant production, and this is a Sabre which replaced the SS1 that they actually launched. They've rounded the lines a little bit. I've still got pop-up lights in this one. I'm not sure if it still had the Escort or Ford CVH engines in and the Nissan engine, but again, a very late version of this car. 92 by the look of the plate anyway. If you know a bit more about that one, then feel free to bob it in the comments. So Daimler had an idea to go into the sports car market and to tap the American market, and they launched this. Originally it was going to be called the Daimler Dart, then it ended up being the SP250 due to legal action by Dodge, and in actual fact they planned to produce 1,500 a year and make about £700,000 profit. In actual fact they produced 500 and lost an absolute lot of money, and then as a result of that they were delivered into the arms of Jaguar, who were seeking additional production capacity at the time. Really sad it didn't make it. The reason it was engineered in glass fibre rather than metal was simply cost. The cost of producing the glass fibre moulds was about £16,000 versus £120,000 for steel. Such a pity, such an iconic looking shape, but in actual fact the styling did not actually meet universal approval, and it was called extremely ugly. Time has mellowed attitudes to it and they're now relatively rare. So thanks once again for joining me on Lot 76 Cars at the fabulous Best of British Day at Brooklands. Hope you've enjoyed the cars that you've seen, and please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to join me on the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.